saving your brakes from excessive heat and wear. An engine speed of 1,000 to 1,200 RPM is ample for taxiing. Practice will give you smoothness on turns, but never try to pivot on one wheel. The minimum radius of turn for the inside wheel should be at least 10 feet. Before you roll onto the runway, run your engines up to takeoff power once more. And again, hold them there a second to see if you've really got full power available. Now contact the control tower for permission to take off. Adjust the throttle locks carefully so your throttles won't creep. Don't forget to steer with those throttles for the early part of your run, till you have speed enough to give rudder control. And remember the relation of gross weight to flying speed. If you're carrying a light to moderate load, the pull-off can be made at an indicated airspeed of 100 to 105 miles per hour. But if you have a medium-heavy or heavy load, your pull-off speed should be between 115 and 120 miles per hour. So much for normal flight. But let's see what the B-25 will do under simulated emergency conditions. For example, here we have an obstacle clearance takeoff from a short field. On a takeoff of this kind, you first taxi to the end of the runway as far as possible and lower your flaps to 30 degrees. Your indicated airspeed varies from 95 miles per hour with a very light weight of 23,000 pounds up to 120 miles per hour with a heavy gross weight of 36,000 pounds. Corresponding speeds for the climb are 106 miles per hour for the lightweight and 136 miles per hour for the heavyweight. Hold the plane with your brakes and open the throttles to takeoff power. When you're sure you have it, release your brakes quickly and you shoot away like a rocket. You're loaded right now to about 26,000 pounds gross weight. So keep an eye on that speed indicator, and when it reaches 102 miles per hour, pull firmly back on the stick and climb your plane at about 115 miles per hour. Remember, this is not the airspeed for the best rate of climb. It's correct for the best angle of climb over an obstacle. When your plane is safely airborne, but only after a definite signal from the pilot, the co-pilot retracts the landing gear. Your cowl flaps may be closed if cylinder head temperatures can be held within normal range. Before beginning to climb, it's smart to keep your nose down until a safe single-engine flying speed of about 140 miles per hour is reached. Meanwhile, the pilot reduces manifold pressure to 38 inches, and the co-pilot reduces RPM to 2,400. As you rise above 800 feet, retract your wing flaps. Bring them up gradually. That way you won't settle or lose altitude. Then return flap controls to neutral. While you're climbing, the co-pilot checks all engine instruments to see that indications are normal. If your mission is one requiring endurance, you have a choice of 3 cruising conditions. Maximum cruise, using 29.5 to 31.5 inches of manifold pressure at 2,100 RPM, in low blower and full rich up to 13,000 feet. Desired cruise, using 27 inches of manifold pressure at 2,000 RPM in low blower and full rich up to 16,000 feet. Or long-range cruise, using 26.5 to 27.5 inches of manifold pressure at 1,550 RPM in low blower and cruising lean up to 13,000 feet. However, if speed is essential at higher altitudes than 11,000 feet, you'll have to shift into high blower. Before this shift is made, the pilot retards the throttles to 25 inches of manifold pressure, and the co-pilot reduces RPM to 1,700. Shift blower controls quickly to save unnecessary wear on the clutches. With high ratio blower in operation, you can pull up to 39 inches of manifold pressure at an engine speed of 2,400 RPM with mixture control in full rich. On long flights, you can avoid unnecessary fatigue by using the automatic pilot. Trim your plane carefully to hold a straight and level course with hands off. Follow usual procedure in uncaging and adjusting the directional gyro, bank and climb gyro, and trim knobs. Then slowly move the automatic pilot to on position. You can feel it taking hold. Now readjust as needed to hold the ship on course. So as we're at a safe altitude, we might as well investigate the stalling characteristics of the B-25. At normal gross weight, the clean wing and gear retracted, the Mitchell stalls at about 101 miles per hour indicated. But with wheels and flaps down, as seen here, she stalls at close to 80 miles per hour. You develop a slight buffeting, and there she goes. To recover from the stall, depress your nose and increase power until you gain normal flying speed once more. Naturally, a plane with a heavy load like this one will lose several hundred feet of altitude before she recovers. When it comes to dive bombing, you can count on your Mitchell to the last notch. With a gross weight of 30,000 pounds or less, your maximum permissible diving speed will be 340 miles per hour indicated. Don't exceed this for any loading, and keep your eyes open when you try diving in rough air. The B-25 pulls out nicely, but keep your control forces at a minimum so you can make a smooth, easy recovery without putting too much stress on the ship. If an engine cuts out on you, don't forget your minimum speed for control. Using only one engine at rated power, it's 140 miles per hour indicated. At less, if you apply full power to the good engine, the ship will begin to yaw. Instead, put the nose down to maintain required flying speed and adjust your rudder trim tab to balance the loss of engine thrust. The tab has ample power for this purpose. Meanwhile, feather the prop on the dead engine to prevent windmilling, and be sure to close cowl flaps so cooling is gradual. Fly with your dead engine high, and don't try any violent maneuvers. Keep a weather eye on the cylinder head temperature of your good engine, and if you need to, adjust the cowl flaps to keep within maximum permissible limits. Don't be afraid to tackle a single engine landing if it's necessary. Just keep cool and use your head. It's smart to make a high approach, reducing power all the way, rather than to start an approach from a distance and drag in over the treetops. Don't fail to go through that checklist with great care now. When your airspeed has fallen below 170 miles per hour, indicated, on approach, put down your landing gear. Hold your airspeed above 140 miles per hour. Govern your good engine at 2,400 RPM constant, so if you can't land this time, you'll be sure to have power enough to go around. Remember that all planes lose efficiency under landing conditions. This is especially true if you're flying on one engine. Don't use full flaps until you're positive you can land this time. As you make your final approach, keep retrimming so you won't have to worry about a lot of changes at the last minute. If you keep your speed above 140 miles per hour, you can always pull up your landing gear and go around. When you know the landing's in the bag,